Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the live stream of my presentation. My name is Tony Maroulis, and I'm a principal analyst working at Ampere Analysis. And over the next 15 minutes or so, I will take you through some of the recent trends we have seen in the difficult to quantify online piracy world. Before we start, though, it's always good to put everything into context. And what we are looking at here is the viewing time in hours and minutes per person per day across the different types of delivery content. We have seen actually that recently in Q3 2019, nonlinear and online video has actually overtaken scheduled TV and DVR viewing. Now, this is something that people have been talking about for quite a few years in terms of the younger generations, but this is the first time that this has happened across all generations and all demographics. The average online respondent now watches just short of 2 hours of both online and linear TV content per day. And breaking this down into a bit more detail, if we look at just the online and non-linear viewing, it is perhaps unsurprising that subscription video on demand services make up the bulk of this viewing. They have grown very rapidly from 2017, where the average person per day viewed about 30 minutes of subscription video on demand video, to about 45 minutes as of Q3 2019. The remaining types of online media, i.e. online on demand from your pay TV provider, the free online services such as YouTube, piracy, and Twitch, as well as catch-up services from broadcasters, make up about 20 minutes respectively. We have recently, actually, in the most recent wave, we saw an uptick of free online video, which puts it a little bit closer to the on-demand from pay TV providers, which is just over 20 minutes now. However, in terms of the propensity of piracy usage has generally declined over the past 3 years. Barring a few exceptions, namely Saudi Arabia and Brazil, across the most European markets, as well as the United States, we have seen piracy usage decline quite sharply. In countries such as Spain, Netherlands, Poland, and Italy, it has seen a significant decline, and in some cases halved, while in other markets such as Germany, usage of piracy services has remained low over the past 3 years. So why is the general piracy declining? Well, in terms of the decline, it correlates very nicely with the increase in viewing of subscription video on demand and broadcast video on demand services. What we are looking at here is on the vertical axis is the percentage increase in time spent of viewing these services. And on the horizontal axis, we can see the percentage decrease in the proportion of respondents who regularly use pirate services. We can see that in markets such as Italy, Poland, Sweden, and the UK, the usage of regular usage of piracy services has declined by almost 40% over the last 3 years. So what are the main drivers behind this? Well, one of the things is that a lot of the most popular TV shows tend to be more available through video on demand services. So looking at the data from 2017, we can see that some of the top TV shows from those days in terms of Google search volumes, such as Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead, etc., are available over quite a few platforms across the 40 countries that we tracked. Game of Thrones, for example, was available on over 20 platforms across 40 countries, while Stranger Things was basically universally available globally across Netflix footprint. And these shows are the ones that are at the greatest risk of being pirated. As popular TV shows, they've always had a global following, and hence, when in places where they were not accessible, they've always been pirated by the viewers. And this is no different in 2017. Looking at the piracy rankings from the top 10 from Torrents Freak annual summary, we can see that the Game of Thrones and Walking Dead hold their respective top 2 spots in both the search volumes and pirate rankings, with the remaining 10 popular TV shows shuffled somewhere beneath that. There is only one notable exception, and that's Netflix's Stranger Things, that has seemingly avoided the worst of the pirate usage. Now, this could be down to a number of factors, of course. I mean, they launched all the entire season in one go, which meant that people could just binge watch it very, very quickly. Could also be that Netflix was generally priced lower than some of the alternatives that featured some of the top TV shows like Game of Thrones, including Now TV or other HBO exclusive partners in Europe. But also it could be that it's just a simpler service to use, and there's fewer barriers to watch the content rather than having to jump through many, many hoops. Now, we could think that this is just a one-off accident and an exception, but actually, if you look at the data from 2019, we can see that the trend is very much the same, except this time it includes two of Netflix's top TV shows in Stranger Things and The Witcher. And we can see that, once again, despite being some of the most popular TV shows globally, including The Witcher, which was only available in the latter stages of last year, they did not hit any of the top pirate rankings globally. In contrast, if you look at Disney Plus's flagship TV show, the spin-off from the Star Wars universe, The Mandalorian, despite being available for just 2 months, it was one of the most pirated TV shows globally in 2019 at number 3, and also one of the most popular ones in terms of Google search volumes. And to a large extent, this is because it was not available in any legitimate and legal means outside the 3 countries where Disney Plus had launched. But does this mean that Netflix has found the solution? Does that mean that they've found a way to effectively fight piracy? Well, illegal piracy and watching illegal streams or downloading TV shows is not the only challenge faced by an increasingly online video world. In an ideal scenario, Netflix would gain a subscription fee from every single viewer and user of the service. So in this example, there's 2 people, 2 subscriptions, and Netflix makes some money. But increasingly, leading OTT players have introduced tiered plans with concurrent streams to address entire families and people with different viewing habits. So they offer a package with greater quality, more streams, allowing more users at a slightly higher price. Of course, the subscription is a slightly higher price, but ultimately, Netflix is still making less money per user in the scenario. But in practice, this current OTT model that we're talking about is actually more like a shared OTT model, where the same Netflix account might be used by not just the people in your household, but also your family and friends who ask to borrow your credentials. And in some cases, these credentials are shared even further, allowing your cousin's friends or your partner's great-grandmother to access the service. But how common is this practice? Is this the exception, or is this generally what's happening? Well, in our most recent consumer survey in the United States, we asked our respondents who took subscription video on demand services to let us know how they access their OTT services. And it's around 1/4 to about 1/3 of all US households subscribe to who gain access to a OTT service say they do so by sharing the account with someone. Now, the vast majority of these people who share these accounts generally access them through someone that lives in their household, which is obviously how these subscriptions were designed to work. But in some cases, like in the case of HBO, roughly 1 in 10 households are accessing this service through an out-of-household account. This means that they're being shared by friends who don't necessarily live together, thereby, to some extent, costing HBO some money. And this is likely to get worse as fragmentation of content continues to become more and more complicated. In just 6 years, from 2014 to 2020, the number of OTT services in the US has tripled, and this is not even including some of the sports leagues going direct to consumer services such as NFL as All Access or NHL TV. Each service is betting on its flagship TV shows, and they hope will convince users to subscribe, and hoping that the back catalog will convince them to stay. But with even more services expected to launch over the next few years, and as the remaining large studios and large tech companies contemplate the next move into media, we could see something like this evolve, where you could see a creation of a complementary account sharing clusters, where families and friends split up the services they would like to subscribe to and grant each other access so that all members can view the best content from each respective service. So in this example, we could have someone subscribing to Netflix, CBS, and Peacock and HBO Max, while someone else might be subscribing to the Disney bundle of Hulu, Disney, ESPN, and the passwords will generally be shared. And although it perhaps might not be as organized like this in practice, it is likely that generally speaking, account sharing will increase. And to some extent, telcos and pay TV operators are looking at this as an opportunity to become effectively this hub of services, offering a bundle of services to include basically all the main services in one account in one easy way. So to summarize, online viewing continues to increase and has overtaken broadcast TV and time-shifted viewing. And this in turn, the stronger engagement with subscription video on demand services and generally online services correlates very strongly with a decline in piracy streaming. But illegal streams are not the only issue faced by the online media industry. Account sharing is emerging as an increasingly large challenge in countries with large numbers of subscription OTT services competing for the viewers' attention. And lastly, as content availability becomes a lot more fragmented, an increase in complementary account sharing is likely. So thank you for listening, and do you have any questions?